What good's a trail rig if you have nothing to tow it with? Today, both the Spider Rock Rod and the SubUrban Gorilla take shape. Plus, see how the Black Hills turn Jessi into a gearhead.
Yeah! Welcome to Xtreme 4x4, a new season and a long list of projects to make this year an even bigger and better Xtreme 4x4.
We had a lot of discussion about what we were going to build this year, so we went truck hunting and this is what we came up with. We've been getting a lot of emails and posts for Toyota builds, so we grabbed two. An old FJ60 Land Cruiser on its last legs and a 91 Toyota with a little bit of an engine noise. We might want to fix that.
I won the coin toss, so the standard transmission has come out of the cheap Jeep, and we're gonna swap in this automatic and transfer case that we picked up from a boneyard. But before we roll anything new into this shop, we gotta tie up a couple loose ends on projects that are already here. So today we're jumping back on the Poison Spider Bruiser 8 rock rod.
And then we're gonna be doing some work on the SubUrban Gorilla. And later today, we're gonna be filling you in on the plans that we have for both of these rigs.
When we last left this rock rod, you can remember we had the wiring harness pulled all the way through the chassis. And now we can start to hook up some of the accessories like this transmission cooler with integrated electric fan that we got from Hayden. Using Painless Performance's weatherproof relay kit, I will crimp all the wiring connections, shrink the tubing with a little heat, hook up the relay, and the weatherproof circuit breaker. Flip of the switch to test.
A lot of us know how much fun wheeling at night is, but to be able to take full advantage of that, you gotta have some rock lights to see the placement of your tires. Now normally you can use off-road lights, but in this case, we're gonna be using these LED lights that we got from Round Eyes. I'll show you how they look. Hey Hutch, will you cut the lights please?
Here we go.
The nice thing about LEDs is that not only are they super bright, but they draw almost 0 amperage. So you don't ever really have to worry about draining your batteries or killing your alternator. When positioning the rock lights, you want to get as much light to the back side of the wheels as possible. Pre-drilling allows me to use self-tapping screws with an eyelet for the ground.
When it comes to tube buggies and headers, you've really only got two choices. You can either build a set or find a set that fits. Now we lucked out with these new LS1 block huggers that we got from Hooker Headers. This is a super competition unit with an 1.5 inch primary into a 2.5 inch collector. And this super thick flange at the head will help eliminate any leaks.
We're going to flow that exhaust through a couple of Flowmaster's Hush Power 2 mufflers. This is a fully still welded body and it's got a unique flow-through design. Come on, I'll show you where we're gonna put them. Because of where the transfer case sits, there's a little bit of a lack of room down there. So we're gonna be putting them right about here for the effect of heated seats. Nah, I'm just kidding. Once we get the floors in, we're gonna be using this DEI heat shield. It's gonna block 85% of the heat and it's gonna stick up to 450 degrees, so it's not gonna fall off.
We're going to use a Flowmaster Universal Tailpipe Kit to get the exhaust from the header to the muffler. We'll trim some tubes to fit, and then tack everything into place, and cut a turn down for the tailpipe.
Back when the chassis was in bare steel, we welded on the mount for the hydraulic steering's orbital valve. Now that the axle's in place, we can go ahead and mount the steering cylinder that we got with the PSC off-road steering kit. All I gotta do is figure out where this thing is gonna be placed, and we should be good to go. With the tires and the cylinder in the straight ahead position, I will tack the mounts into place. Then I'll shoot some compressed air to cycle the cylinder and check the clearances. Perfect! Now all I gotta do is finish weld the tabs. Now to get that wheel to turn along with this wheel, we're gonna need to make a crossover steering rod that attaches this crane height clearance steering arm over to the other side. We're gonna be using 1.5 inch half-inch wall DOM tubing, and then we're gonna tap in some QA1 rod ends to each end.
Now the next piece of this hydraulic steering puzzle is going to be the pump that also came from PSE. Now the LS1 small block ships from GM Performance Parts without any accessory drives. So we went to March Performance for one of their LS1 serpentine belt kits. It comes with all the brackets, pulleys, and idlers to get a serp belt on the front of our engine, and it comes in this billet aluminum show polish that they then put a clear powder coat over so the aluminum won't tarnish. Now the only issue we really have with this whole setup is this is an older style GM pump, and the LS1 normally uses a micro pump or a mini pump that's a lot smaller than this one. So once we get everything mounted, we're going to have to fab up a bracket to make this pump work with the system. And the only real headache there will be making our bracket look as good as the stuff that we got from March.
Up next, one Xtreme host returns home to go crawling, while the other watches from above.
Stop sightseeing, Jessi, and go four-wheeling! A new season here at Xtreme means all new events to cover, from east to west and all places in between.
And one in the middle is the Dakota Territory Challenge. Just so happens to be the place where I grew up. So you guys wanted to know a little bit more about me? Well, here we are, my hometown of Rapid City, South Dakota. Yes, this is where it all began. Even as a child, I knew exactly what I wanted to do for a living and practiced every day. Samuel, we're gonna take this thing out and bust some major trails on this, but first, we gotta take it back to the shop and put a big V8 in it. Yeah.
She was always extreme. She always did everything, everything above and beyond.
For you kids out there, that included getting good grades. And this is where I went to school. Rapid City.
There's so many stories about Jessi, but none that I can tell on TV.
Where we're going now is a place called Fallen Rock. This is a place where all my friends used to come and hang out and talk about rock climbing and rock crawling and four-wheeling and you name it. We would just come up here and hang out because it's only like 10 minutes away from Rapid. See, this is what it's all about. South Dakota Black Hills are freaking gorgeous. The beauty of nature.
It's really cool to see someone, you know, that we kind of grew up with and have always been having fun with make it and really do something fun.
It's all about coming home and wheeling with my boys, George, Teddy, Abe. I always forget that other guy's name.
Stop sightseeing, Jessi, and go four-wheeling!
When I come back to the Black Hills, one of my favoriteest trails is Hal John's. It's one of the most extreme trails out here. It's got nasty rocks, gnarly drop-offs. This thing is incredible.
5+ rated trail for the Black Hills four-wheelers and offers some of the best wheeling that you see in the United States.
Here with my best buddy ever, Dennie Mann, my old school four-wheeling buddy.
Hey Jess, it's so great to have you back in South Dakota wheeling the hills again. You're just like old times in the '60s. Got the cobwebs blowing off the buggy. Let's go hit the rocks.
Just quit standing around, I'm ready! Just an hour from Rapid City, Hal John's is made up of 24 sections, where the only constant is rocks and more rocks. Whoa, hey, how's that feel for you?
Not bad.
What we got here is one obstacle on top of another obstacle on top of another. It's just kind of endless.
It will keep your attention all day long. No boring sections in that trail.
To drive on these rocks, you gotta have a lot of patience. It's not just like bloop, 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 and a truck that'll allow you to do it. For sure, the equipment is an absolute necessity. And Denny's rig was built to handle the Black Hills.
For Jessi's return trip to the Black Hills, we put her in my custom-built 1983 FJ60 Land Cruiser. When you're building a truck for out here in the hills, there's a lot of different things you have to take into account of. We got sway-away coil-over shocks, 16 inches of travel. These babies, you gotta have the articulation to crawl rocks out here. It's key. You're driving over 5-foot boulders, you wanna keep as many tires on the ground as you possibly can.
Yeah!
Atta girl. You know, and a lot of guys are die-hard engine guys. They're gonna put small block engines in their buggies. Not me. I went with the old Toyota 6-cylinder Land Cruiser motor. She's been rode hard and put away wet, but she still gets the job done.
At the famous elevator obstacle, I put Denny's baby up and down the 13-foot wall of rock, all without a problem. The Great day wheeling, had a blast up at Hell John's, but the best part about it all is that I get to come home and sleep in my old bed. So see you later. Go away. Bye-bye.
Looks like you had a great time, and it's always fun to go home again.
Yeah, I wish I knew whose house that was. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks to all the Black Hills four-wheelers, I had an awesome time. It wouldn't have happened without you. And it's always nice to drive somebody else's truck. Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4, where we've been working on the Poison Spider, our first ever tube chassis. All we gotta do is tie up all the loose ends and this thing's ready for the trails.
But before this thing can hit the trail, or anything else we build for that matter, it's gotta be towed there. And that leads us to the other project we're working on today, our tow monster,
SubUrban Gorilla.
We started this project with a rusty 87 Suburban that we stripped to the frame and dropped on an Urban Gorilla body from 4x4 Bodies. Then Gail Banks stopped by to help design the first ever twin-turbo Duramax engine. Then Gail took all those mock-up pieces back to California, and we'll have finished units back here at Xtreme soon. Now with the drivetrain pretty much nailed down for this tow monster, it was time for us to turn our attention towards the suspension, and it all starts in the rear with a new set of leaf springs. To calculate how much lift we're going to need in these springs on the rear, we set the vehicle on the ground and measured the height. Then we put it on the hoist and set it at the ride height we wanted and calculated the difference between the stock and aftermarket tires we're going to use. There's a 2-inch difference. So we know we need a 2-inch lift in the back. Now we could accomplish that with a set of lift blocks like these from Rough Country, but the problem with lift blocks is you can end up with a lot of axle wrap because of the force on them. So we chose a set of completely re-arced leaf springs with Teflon blocks in between the leaves to keep them from squeaking and rattling, and we also grabbed a couple of Rough Country shocks. The leaf spring bolts are seized to the sleeves. Hello. I could heat them up to take them out, but I'll just cut them off and replace them. Whoa, right there. Here, go up. Now you may have noticed our SubUrban Gorilla doesn't have a rear quarter panel on it. And the kit from 4x4 Bodies comes with this fiberglass piece, and it's trimmed to fit depending on the model. But before we cut into this, we want to make sure that the wheel sits good in the opening. So we're going to just tape it in place for now. Once this is tightened up, then we can just lower it down and see how it sits. Okay, down it goes.
Ian will trim and secure the body panels to the Gorilla while I fab up a floor for the Spider. Ian, I'm sorry if I ever yelled at you for scratching the paint. Odds and ends that tend to slow a project down like this one are the little things like cables and pedals. We went to Low Carb Performance Parts for our one stop where they hooked us up with our dipstick tube, our throttle cable, and pedal for the LS1, and we even got an 8-ball shifter.
Now with the back of this truck on its wheels, we can start to talk about the front suspension. Now the front of this SubUrban has a leaf sprung axle, just like the rear. Great for strength, not so good for the ride. So we're going to convert this to a coil spring front axle with parallel bars and a Panhard bar. This is a 5-inch lift coil from Rough Country that you'd normally find in their Dodge 4x4 kit. Now, this is going to mean we're going to have to tap into this frame, build an upper spring bucket, a perch for the axle, a bunch of link mounts, and a lot of work. So we're going to save that for a different show. But this is just the beginning of the frame modifications we have to do to this thing. So for now, put the new tires and wheels on it and get the body off.
Floors are in, the shifter's in, the pedals are on, the cables are connected.
Did I hear you say you burned your shirt?
Yeah, I did that when I was finished welding the exhaust. What's up with this, dude?
It's big.
It's huge. I feel like I'm driving a school bus. Come along, kid, let's go to class.
Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4. With the body off the frame, we can pull this chassis out so we can start to do the modifications before we slide a drivetrain back in there.
The last item to go in the Poison Spider is going to be this custom fuel cell we got from Rock Valley. When mocking everything up, we built a cardboard tank to test the fit. After sending in a drawing, this is what Rock Valley sent us: a fully welded and baffled tank with mounting tabs. It's also got an LS in-tank fuel pump, a spot for a sending unit, a spill-proof cap, and a rollover vent.
The question we keep getting asked about this drivetrain is how are we going to mount this 203 range case that's part of our ORD doubler setup into the back of our Hill Killer Allison 1000 transmission.
But it took some time and a call to advanced adapters, because the Allison has a 29 spline output and the 203 has a 32 spline input. And advanced makes this sledge that's going to allow us to adapt the two of them together.
And with the shafts bolted up, the next thing we have to do is work on the cases. So Advance also sent us this clocking ring for the 203 and one spacer to go behind the Allison. Now we're probably going to end up running a couple of these, but once this is together for now, we can measure for the second. With the clocking ring in place, we can mark, drill, and tap the mounting holes. Then bolt it in place using a little Loctite on the bolts, and then attach the whole thing to the back of the Allison.
Before we get that drivetrain in, we gotta box this frame for extra strength.
And then the next time we're on this truck, the frame will be fully boxed. We'll take you step by step through the coil spring conversion on the front, and we'll be putting the drivetrain in place.
As for the Poison Spider, all we gotta do is wait for all the plumbing stuff to come in and the drive shafts, and that thing's done.